Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a closer look at Max of all trades.
Right, the YouTube channel. Does all sorts of AI-generated stuff, songs, podcasts, stories.
Exactly. And what's really caught our eye is how this creator uses AI mostly for personal expression, it seems.
Yeah, not the usual commercial angle.
We've actually got their own document here, How I Make My Videos, dated May 27th, 2025. It kind of lays out their whole philosophy.
Okay. So our mission today is really to unpack that, the why behind it, the actual how, and the sort of ethical thinking they're applying using AI as a personal tool.
Okay, let's dive right in. They start off with some pretty personal reasons for using AI. A big one, they just can't play music.
Right. Which, that's relatable for a lot of people, isn't it? Got ideas buzzing around, but not the traditional skills to get them out.
So AI bridges that gap.
Yeah, lets them jump straight to expressing the musical idea itself.
They also talk about working alone mostly, limited network for collaboration.
Ah, okay. So AI kind of steps in as the collaborator, like a bandmate or writing partner that's always available.
Allows for maybe more complex stuff than doing it all solo.
Makes sense.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me. They specifically mention wanting to explore very personal themes, even different subpersonalities, they call them, but with some distance.
Wow, okay. That's quite an introspective use of AI, isn't it? Using it almost like a mediator.
Yeah, maybe to look at things more objectively or play with different facets of themselves.
It helps externalize it, I suppose. Gives form to these internal states without, having to put it all out there directly. They use that phrase, show versus tell.
And they're super clear this isn't about getting famous or making money.
Yeah.
They explicitly say the goal is not polished, monetized videos.
So it really feels more like a hobby or a personal project.
Exactly. They call it a personal diary almost, just capturing thoughts, reflections, authenticity over polish.
That really reframes the whole AI content thing, doesn't it? Fun and self-discovery, not just chasing views.
Which leads right into the transparency issue. They sound pretty frustrated about being called a bot farm.
Yeah, I can imagine. Especially if they're being upfront about using AI.
They say people need to see the full picture, not just judge based on one video.
That's a fair point. Context matters. A single AI song is different from a whole channel exploring ideas through AI.
And this very document we're looking at, How I Make My Videos, is basically their way of saying, look, here's how it works, building that credibility.
Pulling back the curtain.
But it seems bigger than just defending themselves. They want to, normalize using AI for expression.
Yeah, sort of combat the fear around AI by showing a different side. Not the deep fakes or the misinformation, but using it thoughtfully.
And they really walk the walk on transparency. AI use mentioned in descriptions, the channel bio, playlists.
Pretty comprehensive. Hard to accuse them of hiding it.
They flat out say, no intent to deceive, no deep fakes, no misinformation.
Setting clear ethical lines. They see it as introspective, like a fingerprint exploring their identity, not just churning out content.
Okay, so let's get into the nuts and bolts. How do they actually make this stuff? Can we get a simplified overview?
Sure. It starts with research and just jotting down notes, old school almost.
Right.
Then those notes feed into ChatGPT. They use it to explore themes, bounce ideas around, reflect on things.
And then for the actual writing, lyrics, scripts.
That's collaborative.
Yeah.
ChatGPT throws out ideas, they write, they revise, back and forth until it sounds right.
Got it. And the music itself.
That's where Suno comes in. They prompt it with lyrics, style, mood, then tweak what it generates.
Okay. And podcasts.
For that, they use something called Notebook LM. It's a Google AI tool. It helps them analyze and summarize their own notes to prep for the discussions.
Interesting. So it works off their material.
Exactly. And the visuals are either AI-generated images or manual editing.
Even as a hobby, it sounds like a lot of time goes into this.
Oh, definitely. They emphasize that. It's not just pushing a button. There's significant effort involved in every stage.
Which brings us back to ethics, but maybe the more nuanced stuff. Like, is AI art soulless? They compare AI to a synthesizer.
Yeah, that's a good analogy, actually. The synth doesn't write the song. The musician does, right? The creator here is saying AI is their instrument for their authentic ideas.
What about originality, given how AI models are trained?
Their stance is they're making new personal work. It reflects their unique perspective, their subpersonalities. It's not about impersonating or copying existing artists.
And the whole AI taking jobs argument.
Well, they point out they're not competing commercially. And by being transparent, they feel they're actually respecting other creators, not trying to pass AI work off as something else.
They even touch on the environmental side.
Yeah, acknowledging the energy use,
Yeah.
but suggesting their specific lighter use might be less intensive than, say, a full studio production. It's a trade-off they're aware of.
Let's dig into how they personalize these tools, especially ChatGPT. It sounds quite advanced.
It really is. They've enabled its memory function, so it learns from past conversations.
And it remembers specific things about them.
Apparently so. It knows about their different subpersonalities. They list names like Addie, Bannock, Liz, Devin.
Right, those facets of their personality they mentioned.
And it supposedly knows their communication styles. Plus, it remembers ongoing projects, state songs, a liquor music series, essays, world building.
Wow, so it can keep track of all these threads.
Seems like it. And it adjusts its tone, formal, imaginative, deep depending on the context. They've even told it not to be flattering, just honest and clear.
That's fascinating, like having a tailored creative assistant.
Pretty much. They use it to categorize content by subpersonality, recall per project details, keep things consistent over time. It knows them.
And beyond memory, they use custom instructions.
Yeah, basically setting ground rules for how ChatGPT should respond to them.
Like matching their tone. Playful when they're playful, serious when needed.
Exactly. And pushing for creative depth, avoid cliches, look for layers.
Yeah.
Also, valuing that philosophical, ethical nuance. Don't give simple answers.
So it's constantly being shaped by their preferences.
And by recent conversations, too.
Yeah.
It has session awareness, remembering they're focused on non-monetized work, AI transparency, maybe a specific recent project.
But they took it even further. Custom bots based on the subpersonalities, 10 of them.
Yeah, that's the really unique part. They've essentially built specialized versions of ChatGPT, each modeled after one of these internal voices.
Like a panel of advisors inside the AI.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Addie, Bannock, Liz, Devin, each with a distinct viewpoint, emotional, philosophical, creative.
Why do that? What's the benefit?
Deepening self-understanding seems key. Interacting with a Liz bot helps them understand that direct part of themselves better.
Okay.
It also broadens their creative range. Instead of one AI voice, they can consult the team, get direct feedback from Liz, maybe explore alternatives with Tira, get humor from Max, strategy from Devin.
So it's like brainstorming with different parts of your own mind externalized.
Pretty much. Helps them see complex issues from multiple angles, avoid getting stuck.
Yeah.
And they say they just enjoy it.
How does it work in practice when they're actually creating?
Each bot has custom instructions, personality descriptions, maybe even documents uploaded about that subpersonality.
Right.
So if they're working on a song or an essay, they'll pick the bot whose perspective fits the theme. Or they might interview a few bots on a philosophical question to map things out or challenge their own thinking.
A modular creative system, as they put it.
Yeah, it's quite elaborate.
What about the ethics of that? Creating AI versions of parts of yourself.
Their view seems to be that it's ethical because it's about self-exploration, not outsourcing their voice. It's a system of checks and balances for their own thoughts.
Humanizing the process, maybe? Exploring identity, not replacing it?
That seems to be the idea. And because they're transparent about using AI generally, the audience can conceptually trace ideas back to these different facets. It makes the AI a reflection of their personal complexity.
Okay, let's list some specific ways ChatGPT gets used day to day. It sounds like it's woven into everything.
It really does. A big one is just private reflection, like an intelligent journal, exploring identity, purpose, feelings, conflicts.
And some of that private reflection then fuels the public content.
Exactly, it's a thought partner. Then there's brainstorming and lyrics, like we mentioned, generating ideas, metaphors, expanding drafts. They gave examples like a tequila song or an Arizona song, where ChatGPT helped layer in history or cultural bits.
And editing, too.
Yeah, fine-tuning.
Yeah.
Adjusting tone, improving flow, trying different perspectives, maybe writing as a specific subpersonality. It's like an always-on editor.
Yeah.
Though they admit not everything is perfectly polished, sometimes it's just about getting the idea down.
What about exploring genres for the music?
ChatGPT helps suggest genres, instruments, tempos that might fit a theme or even a particular subpersonality's vibe. They mention matching subpersonalities to music from different decades.
That's creative. And research.
It acts as a research assistant for essays or cultural songs. Gathers info, helps organize it, maybe translates things, but they stress keeping their own voice central. It even helps structure their how-to videos, finding nuanced angles.
It sounds like Notion is the glue holding all this together, their second brain.
Absolutely central, yeah. It's their all-in-one digital workspace.
So what goes in there?
Everything. Reflections like journal entries, tagged by date, theme, maybe even the subpersonality doing the reflecting.
Okay.
Research hubs for essays, pulling notes from ChatGPT sessions, articles, books, all feeding into outlines and drafts.
Song databases.
Yep. Tracking lyrics, genre, subpersonality links, the AI prompts used, different versions. Same structure for podcast episodes, titles, topics, segments, scripts.
What's the big win for them using Notion like this?
Clarity, mainly. Tames the chaos of having so many projects. It supports both that initial messy brainstorming and the structured development later on, and it connects everything. So the state song research might link to a podcast on regional identity, for instance. It all lives together.
Let's talk about Suno again, the music AI. It's had some controversy, hasn't it?
Oh, definitely. Lawsuits from the RIAA over alleged copyright infringement and training data, concerns about hateful content generation, lack of transparency, musicians raising alarms. Yeah, it's contentious.
So how does this creator justify using it, given all that?
Their argument hinges on their specific use case. First, it's strictly non-commercial, personal expression, like making demos at home, not selling records.
Okay.
Second, the transparency. They always disclose it's AI music. Third, the intent. It's about giving voice to their ideas and subpersonalities, not ripping off or impersonating known artists for profit.
They seem aware of the lawsuits against Suno itself, but frame their own use differently.
Right. They see the legal issues as being directed at the developers and the platform, while their personal, non-monetized, transparent use falls into a different category ethically, in their view. They still emphasize crediting the AI and avoiding impersonation.
Fair enough. Now, Notebook LM, you mentioned it earlier. How does that fit with ChatGPT?
Okay, so Notebook LM is that Google AI tool that only works with the documents you upload. It analyzes your notes to find connections, summarize, answer questions based strictly on your sources.
So it's more contained than ChatGPT.
Exactly. They use ChatGPT for the broader brainstorming, drafting, exploring different angles, maybe initial research.
And Notebook LM comes in when?
For kind of a second pass. To dive deeper into their own research notes on a topic, fact-check against sources they trust, make sure the creative output aligns with their core understanding, ask more targeted questions based only on their material.
So ChatGPT for expansion, Notebook LM for grounding and refinement based on personal knowledge.
It seems to be the workflow, yeah.
This process seems to really shape their podcasting philosophy, too. They say it's about exploring, not prescribing answers.
Yeah, very much so. The podcasts aim to humanize complexity, show their own thinking evolving. That applies across the board. How to human, how to live, how to parent, chasing the feeling.
And the process reflects that.
It seems to. Start with an open question, maybe use ChatGPT for initial thoughts, then review and ground it with Notebook LM using their own notes and research, add deep personal reflection, and then shape the final episode.
You mentioned earlier how songs can feed into podcasts. That integration seems important.
Definitely. The songs act like mini research projects sometimes. Notes gathered for a state song might inform a podcast on regional identity. A song about a type of liquor could spark a podcast exploring cultural rituals around drinking. Parenting songs feed into the parenting podcast. It's all interconnected in Notion.
Okay, one last tool. Text-to-speech for their short stories. Why use TTS?
Efficiency, mostly.
Yeah.
Consistency of voice and just managing their energy. Narrating long stories takes time and effort.
But the writing is still human-led.
Oh, yeah. They write the stories, collaborating with ChatGPT for ideas, plot points, dialogue, perhaps. The core creation is theirs. The TTS is just the delivery mechanism for the narration.
And ethical considerations there.
Transparency, again, disclosing its TTS, making sure it doesn't mimic specific real people. And respecting human narration as a craft, balancing their own production capacity with the depth they want in the stories. The voice might be AI, but the story originates from them.
So wrapping this all up, looking back at this deep dive into Max of all trades, what are the main takeaways?
I think it's a really compelling case study of someone using AI not just as a shortcut, but as a deep integrated tool for self-expression. There's this huge emphasis on transparency, on their specific ethical framework, and this incredibly personalized workflow linking tools like ChatGPT, Suno, Notebook LM, and Notion with their own introspection.
And for you listening in, it really showcases a different way to think about AI in creative work, doesn't it? beyond the headlines about job losses or deepfakes. It shows how technology can be mindfully woven into personal growth and sharing unique perspectives.
Absolutely, because different model AI is amplifier for a personal voice, not a replacement for it.
Which leads us to maybe a final thought for you to ponder. In this world increasingly filled with AI content, what does having a personal voice truly mean anymore? And how might technology like this, used in this way, both challenge our definition of it and perhaps even help amplify its uniqueness?
That's a great question to leave things on. How does technology shape expression itself?